Hi everyone, I'm April, and you're watching The Tangled Cat Speaks, and this is a book edition. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be talking to you for a short little minute. I'm sorry, I'm shaking the table. I'm going to try not to do that. But I'm going to be talking to you for a little bit about the books that I've read in the past couple of weeks. So let's go ahead and get started first with some audiobooks that I borrowed from the library using I think one I got off the Libby app and the other one was off of the Hoopla app. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Murder in an Irish Bakery by Carleen O'Connor. This is a cozy mystery, the most recent that I'm aware of in the Irish mystery series. And this is a woman who used to own a restaurant, and then throughout the series of books, she's decided to join the police force. And in this particular one, it involves a woman that is part of a bake-off kind of contest, but it's going to be televised. And the first task that the contestants have to perform, they are told to do it behind a curtain where nobody can see what's going on, and they're given each a secret note, and they have to do what's on that note during this first bake. Well, whatever is on those notes ends up actually killing one of the contestants, and that's how everything gets started. And it's a really fun story. Really, these are cozy mysteries. They're going to be light and have a little bit of comedy to them, not too gruesome. But I really enjoy cozy mysteries, and this is a really fun series that I've been listening to on audio. And of course, I'm a sucker for the accent, and I just had a really good time with it. All right. The next audiobook that I did was actually a surprise. I was not expecting what I got, considering how short it was. It's called Night of the Mannequins. Very, very short, by Stephen Graham Jones, and it's a horror. And when I started reading it and I realized that the characters are high school age, I thought this was going to be something along the lines of 80s high school age horror books. There was a whole bunch of them back in the late 80s, early 90s, some of which were R.L. Stine, but there were many, many other authors. And those kind of stories usually tend to have, the scares and the frights and all of those things, but they're definitely geared down for a younger audience. That's what I thought this was. But it took a turn about halfway where I was like, oh, this is dark. This is really dark. So basically, it starts out, there's a group of teenage kids who one summer find a mannequin at the edge of a river. They take it home, clean it up, dress it up, and they use it to pull pranks on each other. And after a while, that they kind of stopped doing that. And one of the friends, she got a job at a movie theater, and the other ones thought it would be a good idea to pull a prank on her using the mannequin. And so they have it all dressed up with the baseball caps, to make it look like it's an actual person watching the movie. And they make it so that the manager has to come in and checks people's tickets. They kind of say, oh, there's a guy out front. I think he snuck in. He didn't pay. And so they think it's going to be this hilarious moment when the manager goes up to this person looking for his ticket, and it actually is just a mannequin. And then the mannequin actually stands up and walks out of the theater. So there you go. That kind of would be, R.L. Steinish, it's like a little creepy story. But a little further along in the story, it turns a little darker, and it's a good story, and I don't want to give all of that away, but it's very short, but it's a really, really, really good book. Night of the Mannequins, Stephen Graham Jones, if you're looking for something quick and creepy. Okay, so then I got into The Sea Watch, which is not an audiobook. This is an ebook. And this is part of the Shadows of the Apt series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And this is the series where I've been talking about for months about the people who are sort of a hybrid bug human thing. Um, they're humans, but with like a lot of certain bug species features, and each species is a different like race, so to speak. So there's beetle people. They call them kindin. So there's beetle kindin, spider kindin, wasp kindin, mantis kindin, all kinds of things. And there's battles, and it's kind of a almost a what is that? What you would call like maybe like a steampunk feel to it, like pre-industrial technology kind of thing. But there's like interesting battles between all of these different species of kindin. And in this particular book, the Sea Watch, they actually find themselves, some of the characters find themselves underwater and come to find out that there are not only the land bug kindin, there are sea creature kindin under the water. And both sides always thought that land kindin were a myth and vice versa. The land thought the sea kindin were a myth, and suddenly there they are face to face. And of course there's going to be battles and political tactics and intrigue, and it was a very, very interesting turn that this story took. And I'm kind of excited now that I'm done with it. I'm kind of excited to see where this interaction leads us into the next few books. I'm almost done with the series. I think I've got 3 books left. It's super fun. Really loving this series. I haven't had a book that out of this series that I haven't enjoyed yet. Then I did Appointment with Death by Agatha Christie. Now this one is, and I never remember, I've read this one several times and I still don't remember where they're at, but this is a group of people that go to this kind of like an archaeological type of dig somewhere in the Middle East. I can't remember exactly where. And there's some people that are from England, and there's also a family that are American, and it's this American family. They have this very, very controlling and bullying type of mother, and then she's got the 3 adult children with her, and everybody's trying to make friends on this group, and she just kind of keeps everybody away from her little family, just very controlling, and she rubs people the wrong way very, very quickly. And of course, at one point where it's the hottest part of the day, people are kind of under their little umbrellas and short-term tent kind of things to stay out of the sun, and somebody notices that she didn't wake up from her nap. And it ensues from there because, of course, on this same trip happens to be the world famous Hercule Poirot, detective extraordinaire, and I love him so much. It's a very good story. Like I said, I have read this one multiple times, and I very much enjoyed it yet again. And then I read an ebook, very, very short. I was just in the mood for something super, super short because that Sea Watch book by Adrian Tchaikovsky, that one was over 700 pages. And I really wanted something like bam. So I read The Tiger Comes to the Mountains by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And this one is kind of a historical / folk tale retelling kind of story, like a Mexican folk tale story that they've kind of turned into, they've kind of mixed it up with some historical events that were happening in the early 1900s. I want to say it's the Mexican War. I don't know. I can't remember who they're fighting. Very, very terrible of me. But I know this is the war that involves his name just went right out of my head. There's Zapata is in it, but there's also, what is the other guy? Excuse me while I rack my brains for a minute. It's not Cesar Chavez. It's Pancho Villa. That's the one. So it's that war, and forgive me, I don't remember the name of that war right now. I will probably put it up here afterward. But that's the whole setting in this area. All these families are affected by the war that's going on around them. And in the midst of it all, a young girl and her little brother, very young girl and her little brother, are out in the forest, in the mountains, and they encounter a tiger. So she's got to protect her little brother, and they end up in this cave, and I'm not going to say anything else because that would be the whole story. It's a very interesting story, considering, they do bring in the elements of the war, but they kind of boil it down. They know that all of this is going on here, but this little girl's world is right here. Everything that's happening. Very, very interesting, and I really enjoyed it. It was only 28 pages long, super short, super quick, and very, very satisfying. And then the last book I'm going to talk about was another huge one, and this was also an ebook, The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. Last year, I think it was, I read The Count of Monte Cristo by this same author, and I've always loved The Three Musketeers, movies, television shows, always. Everything I've ever watched about The Three Musketeers I've loved, but I've never read the book. So this was the first time that I finally sat down and read this really, really fat book. And I say fat because it's an ebook, and it's not really fat because it's on my phone. But it's over 1,000 pages. I had so much fun with it. Aramis is always my favorite character. He's the one that's he doesn't really like to fight, yet he's a musketeer. He wants to be a priest, but he hasn't really jumped in with both feet into that yet, so he does the kind of musketeer thing in the interim. But he's kind of, his voice is always real soft and gentle, but he also has a very sarcastic streak to him, so it's very, very funny. So he's my favorite. And then there's very dark and broody, mysterious Athos. That there's something simmering under there, and you just probably don't want to touch it. Just leave him alone. But he's always got your back. And then there's Porthos, who's just loud and obnoxious and very outgoing. And then there's the main character, D'Artagnan, who is not a musketeer, but he comes across these three musketeers, and they actually end up in a fight. And then afterward, they decide they want to be friends, and they end up in all of these shenanigans involving the king, the queen, the cardinal, and a mysterious lady. So it's all very, very how do you say that? Swashbuckling. It's very fun. Very much enjoyed it, and I am so glad that I finally got to that. And the only physical book I have to show you is this one. I think I mentioned the last time that I am doing Cimmerian September because of Michael K. Vaughan and his channel. And I had these books for a while, and there's 3 Conan books. I've gotten through the first one, The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian. So later tonight, I'm going to start the next book, which is The Bloody Crown of Conan. It's just a bunch of stories kind of mashed together, different eras. It's not in chronological. It's not in chronological order at all. So one story might be he's a young man, another story he's going to be older and a king, and another one he's a warrior, and just different types of things. There's a lot of magic and fantasy and mysticism going on in there, but there's also some really good battles. Having a really, really good time with that as well. I just remember the only thing that I know about Conan is the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think there was 2, but I only watched 1. If I remember correctly, I just know Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then James Earl Jones was a villain in that way back when, long time ago. And then Since I finished this book yesterday, last night I decided I wanted to. I was scrolling looking for something to watch, and it just so happened that a 2000, I want to say maybe a 2010, maybe, version of Conan the Barbarian came up, and it had Jason Momoa. And I thought, do I want to watch that? I don't know. I mean, it's Jason Momoa. Let's give it a try. No, I watched about 30 minutes of it and I had to turn it off because don't get me wrong, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie was very 80s. But this one seemed to try to be taking itself a little more seriously and it was just failing. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. I'm sorry, Jason. But that's all I have for this episode, and I do appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me, and let me know what you've been reading. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.